Hello, everybody. We're talking once again with Dana Lane, NHL analyst. And today, Dana and I are going to be talking about Stanley Cup futures, what teams hold the edge, what the odds are for that team, and so forth, all the way down to who perhaps could be a dark horse, somebody to look out for. Dana, first and foremost, glad to have you back with us. Congratulations on last night, 2-0 night. Good production. All right, Stanley Cup futures. All right, let's get right into it. Washington, Chicago, Dallas. I mean, those teams come to mind right away. Any thoughts on either of those teams, or let's talk about all three of them?
Well, right now the Washington Capitals obviously are the top team in the National Hockey League. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. They're 10 points ahead of the Dallas Stars at this point for the President's Cup trophy. But a lot of times when you get the top teams going into the playoffs, they already have a sense of accomplishment. And that's what I worry about with the Washington Capitals. And yes, on paper, they have everything you could ever want in a team. But I also worry that they are going to go in a little bit lackadaisical. And I could definitely see them facing a team like the Florida Panthers and taking them lightly and getting beat by the Panthers. So at 13-4, as far as the future odd is concerned, there's really no value in that. Considering only 8 of the last, since 1985, only 8 President's Cup trophy winners have actually gone on to win the Stanley Cup. So we're going to stay away from the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, and that seems to have been a pattern in the past with Washington, Dana. It seems like they quenched their thirst, during the regular season, and then it's major letdown time, and then when you look at Ovechkin and you look at Braden Holtby, all right, these are veterans. It's going to be up to them to turn that mindset around and to get that team thinking hungry as soon as they go into the playoffs, as opposed, to looking what they did in the regular season. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Wins and losses are out the window. Your new season starts. So I agree with what you say on that. Now, the Blackhawks, a leader like Patrick Kane, I think this team has enough experience, has enough confidence to, certainly not overlook anybody. What are your thoughts on the Blackhawks, and what are the odds as far as futures that you see for them?
Well, the Blackhawks are at 13-2 right now, and Mike, you're absolutely right about this team. I am a huge fan, as you probably know, of Corey Crawford. He's got 2 cups to his credit, but I'm even a bigger fan of the defensemen in front of him. Yeah. You have Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Nicholas Hjalmarsson, all have 3 cups apiece, and that when we handicap, I always go from goaltender and defenseman out. That's the most important entities of a hockey team, especially going into the playoffs. So, yeah, they have everything it takes to obviously go far in the West. I don't think they're going to win, and I don't think they're going to represent the West in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup Finals. But certainly I could see them in the conference finals.
Yeah, and you touched on it in that defense. I mean, when I think of that defense, the word that comes to mind is stingy. Just a stingy defense. They don't like giving anything, and that's what I love about that team. Now, moving on, Dallas Stars. I mean, here's a team that's the odds are 15-2, okay? You got Seguin and Jamie Benn, and I may be pronouncing the names wrong again. I put it out there because some viewers get offended by that, but hell, it is what it is. But this team could be dangerous. I've seen them go in spurts this year, and in the last several years, I've seen a pattern when they tend to get hot right before playoff team. But this is also a team that could be guilty of overlooking an opponent. What are your thoughts on the Dallas Stars?
Well, the one thing I love about the Dallas Stars and the microcosm is what we just saw a couple weeks ago. The Dallas Stars went in, when they went head-to-head with the Chicago Blackhawks, they went into United Center and got thoroughly beaten. And then we talked about, I think we even did a video on this, the next time that they played. And I just thought, hey, look, I think this Blackhawks team might have their number. Well, Dallas, in true form, came right back and thoroughly dominated the Chicago Blackhawks at the United Center. And that, to me, shows a lot of character. And I look for those things like toughness and character when you go into the playoffs, and especially when you're trying to determine who you're going to put a futures bet on. I think this might be the Dallas's year. Look, they're 23rd in the penalty kill. I don't love that, but they have enough offense, and I like their situation. I love Kari Lehtinen. I think that they have a good 1-2 punch at goal. This could be their year, and I'm going to take a shot with them at 15-2.
Okay, I like what you said about that because I noticed one thing also. That was a huge win at Chicago. Now, what they do with that is going to determine everything for the rest of the year. All right, do they put it in a jar and cap it and hold on to it? Or do they let it go in one and out the other, which I hope they don't. But I think it's a veteran enough squad to realize, hey, what we did just now was huge, going in there, United Center, and winning like that. So I think that's a team that's going to be, one to be reckoned with, and I wouldn't want to meet them, especially early on in the playoffs. Again, a lot of veteran leadership there. That might be the play. That might be the team that goes out and gets it done. Now, the Los Angeles Kings, here's a team that I have seen so much inconsistency this year that it's literally, giving me the mindset the only consistent thing about them is their inconsistency. And I want to focus, is it Jonathan Quick in goaltending? Where's this coming from? Is Anze Kopitar, is he not, letting his leadership bleed amongst the other players and let the other lines catch on to that? What are your thoughts on this LA Kings team that we both know have the talent to put it all together, but what's holding them back?
Yeah, the only thing to me is I think they take a lot of penalties and inopportune times. And when you're playing the best of the best in the playoffs, they're going to be able to take advantage of that. I don't think they get out of their top 6 forwards. I don't see a lot of consistency on a night in, night out basis. And we just saw them go through the East, playing the best teams in the East. And they had a lot of problem when they played. They had the one great game against the Boston Bruins to start the trip. But outside of that, they weren't as impressive at all against an Eastern Conference that many people think is inferior to the West. So that's my only issue with them. I want to see some consistency out of them, and they have to play a lot smarter hockey.
And the game you touched on is what I was really focusing on when I was studying this. When they beat the Bruins, what was it, 9-2 or something? They looked like, okay, this team is finally exploding. Oh my God, shit got real quick, and it didn't look good for them. So, I don't think they've bounced back from that, and I got a feeling that impact might affect them the rest of the way. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Anaheim Ducks. I mean, Corey Perry, Patrick Maroon, this team, they show up, they're good, they could be under the radar, they're sitting at 12-1 odds, but this is a team, obviously, they have some scoring issues at times, they have some injury issues. What is your feel on the Anaheim Ducks?
I have no interest in playing the Ducks. I know a lot of people are kind of on board with them. Even if they catch the Los Angeles Kings in the Pacific, I really have zero interest in them. They have so much. They've had problems all year putting the puck in the back of the net, and I know that they've been more consistent as of late. They've made a tremendous run at the Kings, but again, as far as putting money on the futures play, the Ducks are too inconsistent offensively for me to put my money down on them.
Yeah, and mine also. I totally agree with that. Now, there's one team that's been fun to watch as of late, and because of that, and you've cashed some tickets with it. Because of that, I want to ask you this as far as maybe a dark horse, because where the odds are, and I think you know what I'm talking about. Minnesota Wild, all right? John Torchetti gets hired, and even though they're coming off a loss, this team before that really focused, playing good hockey, fun to watch. They're enjoying the game again. Odds are 30-1. What do you think about them as perhaps maybe a dark horse? And if it's not them, if you will, just reiterate on the team you think is going to take it all and who would be your pick for the futures.
Yeah, that might be a fun play. They could make some noise, but everything is, it's like in anything else. Everything's fantastic when you're winning, but how do you face how do you deal with adversity when you start to lose? And they lost last night. They lost in pretty convincing fashion. So I just, again, not a lot of scoring. Dubnyk, this is his time of year where he starts to usually put it together. But as far as, having a legitimate right to the Stanley Cup, I don't think they're going to beat Chicago, and I don't think they're better than Dallas, and I don't even know if they're better than St. Louis. So that's not the team I would go on.
Well, my dark horse, just to put one out there and have fun with it, and I like the way this team gets hot, especially this time of year. And I was in Florida last year at the time when it happened, but Tampa Bay, they're 18-1. It's my dark horse. Sometimes they could just find this energy that just absolutely just spreads throughout their team, and they look like this veteran squad that's been together forever. So I don't know. That's my dark horse, but my actual pick, and if I had, for the bang for my buck and put my money where my mouth is, not to jump on the public. I'm one not to do that. And in the past, I've held off on Washington because of them, as you said, maybe quenching their thirst during the regular season. But I'm going with them this year. I think this year is totally different for some reason. And I think Alexei Ovechkin's presence in the locker room is not only going to be felt, but it's going to be heard. I think he's going to be more vocal in that locker room. And with Braden Holtby in the nets, I think this team understands they have a shot to do something real special this year. So I'm going with Washington on that. And again, that's why they play the game, and anything can happen in the NHL. We both know that. So, Dana, I really appreciate you being on board with us. This Stanley Cup Futures has been an interesting video. And viewers out there, grab a hold of some information we've put out there. I like the Tampa Bay on a dark horse, and I like Washington to get it done on my futures pick. Dana, great to have you with us again, as I've said, and look forward to having you again with us real soon.